Hey, how is it going, everyone? Welcome back to the Golden Rice podcast. Today again, I'm joined by the wifey. How you doing? You doing all right?
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, news-wise, I don't think we mentioned this in our last podcast because we hadn't found out
We didn't
yet.
know yet.
But we're having a girl. So yeah, that's really good news, isn't it?
It's exciting.
Yeah, looking forward to meeting her. But yeah, that's probably the biggest news that we've got this week. In a couple of weeks' time, we will be in Italy. We're both going to try to get all the content ready for that week, so you guys aren't missing out on anything.
I already have.
But you're far more organised than I am.
I'm quite far ahead of myself.
But yeah, so we'll see how we get on there. I mean, when it comes to crunch time, I'll make a decision there and then if there's going to be like a day or 2 days where I don't post any videos because I either haven't got around to it or I don't know, whatever the case might be. Hopefully that doesn't happen. But yeah, fingers crossed I can get everything in order before we go on holiday. But yeah, 'cause it's my cousin's wedding.
Are you vlogging when you're there?
I don't know, to be honest.
I am. I'm going to do a travel vlog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I might do the same thing.
We can just do a joint one. You can be on my channel for once.
Yeah, but what would I vlog though? I mean, there's loads of really cool things in Rome, but I don't know if there's Italy as a whole, but Rome in particular is where we're going. But I don't think. I don't know. I don't think there's anything relevant.
No,
You know what I
think
mean?
it'd be more suited on my channel.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess go and check that out because you'll be on my channel. That's if we get the time, because I know certain places we're going we won't be able to film. Yeah. So we just have to be respectful of that.
Yeah. I'm going to be filming everything anyway.
Yeah.
Whether or not there's anything in particular that we can shoot that's relevant for me or our audience or whatever, I suppose that remains to be seen. But yeah, exciting times ahead. So cousins getting married and everyone's getting married and everyone's becoming responsible adults.
And you're becoming a parent.
Absolutely mad. Anyway, all right, so let's get into the main topic of the video today. So when it comes to buying a motorcycle, I think most of us understand that it's a burden on personal finances. It's a burden on just your everyday life. It's a burden.
Yeah.
Buying a bike, because it's not just buying the motorcycle. You've got to get the taxes. You've got to or organise the taxes. You've got to pay for those. You've got to pay for maintenance, MOTs, fuel, insurance. There's quite a lot of things that you have to take into account when it comes to buying a bike. And so, today we're just going to be running through at which point is the right time to buy. So from a financial point of view, not from an experience point of view or from, I don't know, but this is mainly going to be financially oriented, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
When do you think it would be a right time to buy a motorcycle? At what point in your life do you think, past, future or present, do you think would be the best time to buy?
Financially?
Yeah.
Oh, it's difficult because obviously when you've got a job, like a well enough paying job that you're not going to get too affected by tax, insurance, petrol, stuff like that. That's the optimum time, right? Because it becomes part of your life, your direct debits, and becomes part of your bills. But it shouldn't be at the point where all you can do is fund your bike. It needs to be a point where you can still live.
So the thing for me is that even though bikes are expensive and they are a burden financially, they are an investment.
Yeah.
So not an investment in a financial sense, funnily enough, even though that's what we're primarily focusing on today, but it's an investment in your life. Yeah, in your enjoyment, in your satisfaction, kind of like the things that you get out of life, right? A motorcycle is one of those things that should be about that. it's probably, unless it's a very specific type of motorcycle, you're not going to get a return on it financially.
No.
The return that a motorcycle gives you is, for that personal benefit.
And I know that we're talking financially here, sort of like when financially should you, but it's a difficult one, because if you leave it too late, you'll think, I've got other responsibilities, I don't want to do it, I can't do it now. So there's that kind of like fiscal responsibility, the fact you might have a mortgage, you might have a family to support, and then it doesn't really become viable. But then when you're younger, unless you're like me and you do it when you're later and you buy a bike you probably really shouldn't have spent that much money on, you're going to buy a little runaround, a 125, which you may end up dropping or crashing, and you'll write it off anyway.
Yeah.
So it's really tough because it's not just financially, it's your life stages as well, because obviously when you have more money, it's because your career has gone, I say your career's gone better, you've got the career path.
You've developed your career.
You're on a career path, and the trajectory is maybe more rewarding for you than it was 5-6 years ago when you were maybe 16, 17 wanting to do it. But at that point as well, you've probably got other responsibilities, or looking at other responsibilities to take on, which again costs money.
Yeah.
It's really hard. It's not a straightforward answer, is it?
Well, you know what? I think it is.
Okay.
And today I'm going to try and make it as straightforward as possible.
Convince me.
So to try and give everyone a direct answer rather than wishy-washy kind of stuff, the best times to buy a motorcycle are when you're really young, or when you're middle-aged, or getting up to middle age. Do you know why?
Why?
So when you're young, you don't have any fiscal responsibility. You don't have any bills. You are probably living with your parents. You are probably just getting your first job, or maybe you're a student, something like that. At those times, there's very little you're spending your money on. Students is a different kettle of fish, because a lot of students are poor.
Yeah,
you know,
of course,
a lot of students, they struggle a lot. So maybe students isn't the perfect
demographic
for this, but a young person, say 16, 17, 18 years old, just looking to start maybe an apprenticeship or getting jobs or something like that, at that point it's probably a very good time to get into it. Go on. I'll move on to middle-aged a little bit later on, but
I appreciate what you're saying, and I'm not trying to be difficult, but I'm just trying to think of counter arguments.
Okay.
To you. Not because I don't agree with you, but because I think there are other aspects to this.
Oh, why not? It's a debate, so why not?
So, for instance, when you're younger, your insurance is going to be higher, though. So that is one thing. You are going to be paying more for insurance, so it is more financially straining. And
in the UK in particular, your options are very limited. You can only ride a 125. At that age, at 18 years old, you can only ride a 125. Maybe if you've just done your A2 test, then you can ride A2. But that is it. That's the scope of the bikes that you will be able to ride at that age. So there is a drawback there, yeah.
Yeah, that was my point.
So, okay. But at least you've started the journey, you know, you've started your riding career, and you have put yourself in a position where when you do come to get your full license at 19 or 21 or whatever the age is, I always forget the system, because it changes and it gets far too complicated. But anyway, whatever age you are, you have that foundation there where you can develop towards it. And hopefully the idea would be is that you'd be riding big bikes, you have your full license, before you really start getting into any serious financial responsibilities.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you get to choose as well at that point, because you don't need a car. Yep. So you get to choose what kind of how you want to get around. If you want to buy a car, then that's great. Yeah. But you don't have to have a car. You can have one or the other.
Yeah. So I've got a thought, but I've got a question first.
Yep.
So what age are you putting here? What age bracket?
Between 18 and 21.
Okay, so that's getting up to middle age.
No.
Oh, sorry.
Middle age is 50.
Yeah, sorry. Okay.
I mean, literally middle age, so getting up to 50 years old.
Cool. Right. Sorry, I missed a beat there. That's fine. Carry on.
Okay. Because once you start getting past 21 years old and you get, mid-20s, late 20s, early 30s, that's when your life changes and everything becomes you have to be more responsible at that point. And people struggle to find, not necessarily the money, but they struggle to find the will to get involved in something like that when they already have so much going on. So you're looking to buy a house, or you're saving to buy a house. You're looking to get things that are more practical, like a car, for example. Or maybe you're getting into relationships, long-term relationships, and so you're focusing more on that than you are on your own personal kind of satisfaction.
The funny thing is, and this is pro your argument, and it's not going to sound like it to begin with, so work with me here, but it is fiscally related. So if you do it when you are between 18 and 21, yes, you're going to burden that cost, and it is probably going to be a bit more of a strain potentially if maybe you are, I don't know, working or whatever your situation is. But then say, and this has happened, obviously not with you, but you get into a relationship and you have to sell your bike because you need money for a house deposit or whatever. At least then when you are in a comfortable situation and things are more evened out, you can go back to it without having that initial CBT training cost.
One of the hardest bits for a young person is trying to find the money. Not just for the bike, but to do all the testing and all that other stuff.
The helmet and the accessories and everything.
It's quite a big cost to a young person. And, I mean, to be fair, that's probably a good thing, because it means that you have to be very, very particular in what you buy, what type of bike you buy, what equipment you buy. You have to be frugal. Mm-hmm. So it teaches you quite good lessons about value, bang for buck. That kind of thing.
And I think as well, when you're young, I mean, maybe not, maybe this is me just chatting crap, but when you're younger as well and you don't have that much to your name that's yours, because you probably do live with your parents and everything that you've got they've probably brought for you, when you actually get your own bike, do you think people are then more inclined to look after it more because it's their own money going into it, it's their first investment?
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah, so that's another thing, isn't it?
At least you'd think so, wouldn't you? That because it's something you've worked hard to get, you'd want to try and look after it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
I think so.
I mean, remind me, 16 is when you can do your first, is it 17?
So 16 is when you can do your CBT, but you can't start riding motorcycles until you're 17. So
it's no different to having a car then. You can do them both at 17.
Yeah.
Right. So I was going to say,
the difference is, though, with a car, when you get your driving license, you can drive anything.
I know that.
With bikes,
but
it's not the case.
The argument I was going to make is, if you get it when you're younger, you can get a job, blah, blah, blah. You don't have to wait for your driving license, but you kind of do, because you can't go and just get a job if you're 16 and done your CBT. Do you know what I mean?
The thing is, though, I mean, the times have changed, because when we were growing up, when we left school or when we went to do university or what have you, 16 was the age at which you could do that. Yeah. Whereas nowadays you have to be in education till you're 18. So it is slightly different these days to how it was when we left school. But what you can do as a 16-year-old, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, is you can do an apprenticeship. So you are effectively earning money. You are starting off your working life, your working career. You'll start earning money, and at the same time, you are still technically in education, because you still have to go to college and things, although you wouldn't be doing college as much as you would have done school, for example.
Yeah.
But you are earning money. You're working and you're earning money. I believe that's how you can do it still to this day.
Yeah, because you have to do college or apprenticeship. You can't do nothing.
Sixth form or college or an apprenticeship.
Yeah.
You can't just start your working life
like we did.
Like we could have. Yeah. Well,
like
you did. That's what you did, didn't it? You left school.
Well, I went to college.
You went sixth form.
I did 3 years of college.
Yeah.
But then I started working.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that option is still out there for young people. Bless you.
Sorry.
So that's. So the drawbacks are that you have not a lot of money to spend on a bike or equipment, and you're limited in what bikes you can get.
Yeah.
All right. That's the biggest drawback, but you're laying the foundation for everything else later on. So when you do have the opportunity to do your A2 or your full license and get those other bigger bikes, you can do that. right? So you're laying the foundation. Now, there's a period between 21 and probably all the way through until mid-30s to 40 years old, getting up to 50 years old, where people have started their lives, their adult lives, properly. They're in their careers, they're starting to have families, they're getting married and things, they're going on holidays, other things that get in the way of doing this. So even if you did have an interest, 'cause I hear this a lot when I speak to people, because when they find out that I ride bikes and what have you, and I've been doing it for a long time, I always hear that people are like, oh, I've always wanted to do that. Like that's the biggest thing that I hear all the time. So there is that interest there, but clearly it's never been enough to convince them to go all in on it. And this is the problem, is that when you get to a stage in your life, certain things that you would find that would satisfy you personally and satisfy your life, kind of like your bucket list, I suppose, doing things throughout your life that would make you happy. A lot of people, they end up pushing that to one side for other things that to them are more important. And so this is the period in your life where, for me, it would be the hardest time. And it just so happens that in the UK, if you wanted to get your full license, direct access, so you do your CBT, your full license and everything, you don't have to do A2, you can skip all that. You can only do that when you're 25. So you do get the people who can get their license earlier, but they have to have gone through that A2 process. If you don't, the earliest you can do it is 25. But that is when you're at... that's when you're in your stride at that point. Your life is getting in the way at that point, and you can't fully commit to this kind of stuff. So there's that period in your life where everything changes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I had a conversation with someone a couple of weeks ago. I never met her before.
Oh, right.
And it was just part of a hen party I was at. And we're having a conversation, and she asked, what you do. So I said that, you're a moto vlogger and all this sort of stuff. And she said that her partner had wanted to get into it, but she was like, can you wait, because our little girl's young, blah, 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 and all this sort of stuff. And then she said, how do you feel about it? And I had two responses. I don't think she liked either of them, to be honest with you. The first one was, well, it's none of my actual business, because he's been doing it since he met me.
Well before, we got together.
We were even an item, you were doing it. So it's actually nothing to do, it's not my decision. And she's like, but you're pregnant, how do you feel about it? And I was like, but I trust him on the road. Like, it's not, I don't have any, it's other people that cause me concern, not you. Obviously, whenever you go out, I'm like, oh, take care, ride safe and all that, because it makes me feel better that I've said it, not because I think you need to hear it. But then she said something else, I can't remember what it was, and I just said, look, at the end of the day, he doesn't do anything else that I just think, he's off doing something naughty, he's off drinking all the time, off taking things he shouldn't be taking. I was like, this is his vice, this is his mental health.
Vice? It's not a vice.
No, not a vice, but this is your outlet, that's the word.
Yeah.
This is your mental health sort of, I'm saying habit, because that sounds like drugs.
Well, I have a couple of things. So obviously I've got the motorcycle stuff, I've got the riding, but also my martial arts as well is also another outlet for
my point was
mental health.
It's not for me to say how you want to live your life, because you've been doing it way longer than I have. But the question I am getting, and I'm expecting to get going forward, is now you're having a baby, how do you feel about it? And I'm going to say, what did I tell you last time we spoke? Because it's the same thing.
See, it's a good woman right here. It's a good woman. She lets me do what I want to do, but at the same time, I'm not stupid about it.
Well, that's the thing.
I don't gamble. I don't smoke. I don't drink.
You're not off cheating on me.
No.
Because
Because the things that women worry about, I hardly ever do those things.
No, I have no worries.
But go on.
This is the thing, and it does tie back into what you were saying about, and I'm sorry, I'm stereotyping. I'm saying men here just because it seems to be that this is an attitude women have towards men more than men have towards women who ride. women who ride just get ogled at, which is we'll talk about that a different time, because there's been some things I've seen and I'm just like, what the actual. But women towards men seem to have, as soon as they get them, they've got that ring on their finger or they've got that house deed, all of a sudden it becomes like, you can't do this.
Yeah.
And when you're in that age bracket that you were just talking about, where they are settling down, they are having a family, buying a house, I don't know, going travelling, whatever it may be, that is when the apron strings start to get tighter around their partners.
Yeah.
And I think that is probably, again, that's why I agree with you that this age gap is probably not the ideal time. Yeah. Because there are other things, but also people in your life at that age, some don't seem to want you to do it.
I was about to say that, well, my cousin is a great example.
Yeah.
He is also one of these people who has had an interest in bikes, because I've spoken to him about it before, and because he sees me buying a new bike every 6 months or something like that. Obviously, the conversation comes up, but his wife-to-be will not let him ride.
No.
Full stop. Will not let him ride. And there are some people like that. That's fair enough. It's up to you as the individual if you want to accept that or not. I would be one of those people where I couldn't accept that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, because it's such an important part of my life. And funnily enough, that when I bought my first big bike, my ER6, the person who I was buying it off, the reason why they were selling it is because their girlfriend, at the time, I guess, I don't know if they're still together now, but their girlfriend was saying, you have to sell it.
I've never said that to you.
But there are people out there like that. That's and that's another part to play in all this as well, is who you choose as a life partner and how they feel about it, and whether or not that ends up stopping you.
But I've grown up around bikes, so it was different from the Ofsted. But
I guess so, yeah.
I'm more like, do we have to sell it? I don't ride it, but I like the look of it. Do we have to sell it? That was my point.
So we've got past that stage where, okay, so you were young, you missed the boat.
Yeah.
So now you're going through your 20s, you're going through your 30s, you're starting to have kids, and you're starting to buy houses and get things that are important for the household, as opposed to, like, especially mortgages these days, they don't allow much room for things
activities.
Like bikes. Activities in general, but they don't allow enough budget for a lot of people to get involved in bikes.
I had that when you said much room, and I had that stepbrother thing in my head, and he was like, so much room for activities, and that's why I said for activities. Sorry.
That's all right. It's a funny movie.
It is funny.
So at which point now, you've missed the boat, at which point now is the best time to get into bikes? For me, it's going to be the time at which you have kids that are grown up, that you are already paying off your mortgage, your career is developing, so you're earning more, and everything becomes easier. In your 20s or your mid-20s, your early 30s to mid-30s, that's when arguably it's the hardest time, because you're having to save every penny you possibly can to do those important things, to go on those holidays that you wanted to do, to buy the house that you want.
The thing
All of those things are things you are focusing more on than anything else at that point in your life.
But the thing is, if we just take those three groups that we've just spoken about, so you've got your young group, where you are putting things in place to start beginning your independence.
Yeah.
Then you've got that middle section, where you're working through those goals that you have, and you're getting settled, you're getting somewhere. And then you've got that large group where you are settled, you're probably closer to retirement. You've done everything that you want to do at this point, potentially in your career. And
what age are you talking about?
Like the middle age bit. Like
that's not close to retirement.
Well, for some people it is, isn't it? Let's be honest.
Nowhere near close to retirement.
What my point is that at that point you're established as a person, as an individual in your career. You're probably
life established.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. Yeah. Like, you're not at this point where you're starting your career, and you're like, oh my god, retirement feels like 100 years away. You're at this point where retirement possibly 15, 20 years away, and you can actually start to go, right, okay, my kids have flown the nest, I don't have a mortgage, or I have a very little mortgage, or my mortgage is under control. my outgoings are less than my my
you have money to
ingoings.
spend.
Yeah, you have
money
you have
to use
money.
to enjoy. Yeah.
But it's not just that your life is settled at this point.
Yeah.
It's established. That's what I'm trying to get at. Those stages are just building up to that established point.
And okay, I mean, just one last thing before we discuss, the 40s and 50s. Do you think it's selfish? Do you think it's for selfish reasons why women would stop a partner riding?
Oh.
Because this is something you can't shake. Once you're established, once you have that mortgage, once you've had those kids with this person, you won't be able to shake that. Unless for whatever reason you decide to get a divorce or something. But for in this instance, let's say that you are committing to this individual,
and they've asked you to stop riding,
or they're not. They won't let you do it full stop. So even after your kids are all grown up, and even after you're in a financial state where you can afford to do these hobbies, and this person is still saying no, do you think that's for selfish reasons, or do you think that that they're just like you? Disguising it as caring about you, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So you've kind of taken the words out of my mouth. So what I was gonna say was, in some cases, it could be concern. Maybe this person is a reckless driver, and they're just like, you really should not be on two wheels, and it's a concern. Or this person maybe is not in the right mind a lot of the time and shouldn't be riding. So there could be a concern element. I definitely think there are people out there where that exists.
Yeah.
I think, however.
So almost like trying to protect their partner from themselves.
Yes, yeah. I think that exists 100%.
Yeah, okay.
But I think there can be sometimes an element of selfishness hidden,
control,
portrayed as concern.
Yeah. Where
they don't want them to do it, but they can't actually tell you why. They just don't like the idea of it, or their cousin and sister's cat's fallen off a bike or something. Do you know what I mean? There will be some story that they've heard through the grapevine about someone they've never met, they don't even know.
Yeah.
And there will be that kind of safety, but I think there is elements of both. So there are elements where people are genuinely concerned that this person really shouldn't be on the road.
Yeah.
But there are elements of concern which are elements of selfishness which are disguised as concern. Yeah. And these people are, maybe they can't imagine their life without this person because something might happen. I don't know. But it's, if someone's established and then they get asked to sell their bike, that's not fair. Because
this, for me, is perhaps the biggest stumbling block. The biggest issue that you're going to find at this stage in your life is your life partner, your chosen life partner, whether or not they will allow you to get involved in a hobby
allowing
like
someone, which is disgusting when you put it like that.
But that's anyway, let's so I put that to one side. All right, obviously we've spoken about the drawbacks when you're young. These are the kind of drawbacks that you're going to have to think about when you're a little bit older. Like if you're thinking, no, I'm in my mid-30s right now, I'm going to leave it another year, I'm going to leave it another year, so on and so forth. At the point where you decide to fully commit, will you have an issue from your life partner? All right, that's one of the things that you will have to consider. Yeah. One of the benefits is that, of course, you have that money behind you. Well, we are talking in general terms here. We're not. This isn't going to be everybody.
We're just generalizing.
Yeah, everyone's going to have a different life. Everyone is going to have different scenarios to what we're discussing here. We're trying to just give you an age range. But it's a direct answer, if you know what I mean, to the question. It just depends on where you are at that stage in your life. Like people decide to have kids when they're early 20s. People decide to have kids when they're in their mid 30s. Things like that will have an impact on all of this.
But we can't talk through every scenario.
But we are trying to catch as many people as possible in this group that we're discussing. Yeah. So anyway, you have that cash. And maybe you did your CBT back in the day. Maybe you started that whole process and you couldn't really finish it. Now is your opportunity to finish it. Now you can go ahead and do that direct access, because it will take you 2 or 3 weeks and you'll have your license. Mm-hmm. And you can buy any bike that you want straight away. That's a big benefit to being at that age where you don't have to worry about your mortgage as much. You don't have to worry about your kids. You don't have to worry about your life partner. You don't have to worry about anything, and you can really start focusing on the hobbies that you like.
Yeah.
The problem is that a lot of people, they get caught in the trap of waiting until they're looking at retirement to start pursuing these things, and there's nothing wrong with that. I have had comments before of people who are in their 60s and their 70s, and they say, you know, am I too old to do this? You're absolutely not. You can definitely go ahead and get involved in the hobby at any age. It's not one of those things that no one will judge you for it. No one will make you feel silly. Unless they are your kids trying to make you feel bad about it, or your life partner, or whatever. But that is a perfect time as well to get involved in the hobby. But anywhere from 80 all the way down to 40, 45 years old is a good stint in time to get involved in the hobby, where you don't have these strings attached. In theory, you don't have strings attached. There might still be other things personally that are going on in your life that might still be hindering that. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, for most people, that's a great time to get involved in that. And I mean, it's like I said right at the start, it's not a sound financial investment, but it's an investment in your life. It's an investment in your enjoyment and your satisfaction. I'm sorry, I don't want to live through my life and not have an opportunity to do the things I've always wanted to do. You know, I want to do not paragliding, but paragliding would be quite cool. But I've always wanted to do skydiving. I've always wanted to just jump out of a plane and a parachute. I mean, if I could get my skydiving license, that would be great. But I don't know if I'll ever get the opportunity to do that. But at least experience it that one time. So I'd love to get a pilot's license as well. But cost-wise, I don't know if that's something I'll be able to ever do. So there are certain things that even, for most of us, they'll be just out of reach, maybe. I suppose it depends on what stage you are in your life.
And what dreams you have, yeah.
But I'm one of those people. I got involved in this hobby whilst I was at school. Before I started sixth form, before I got to university, before I started having any kind of responsibility, financial responsibility or life responsibility, I got into it as early as I possibly could. And now I'm reaping the rewards of that. But it's never too late to start doing it. And as much as doing it at the earliest point you possibly can might be the best thing, because you're not just pushing the boat out a little bit further, kind of like, oh, I'll do it next year, I'll do it the year after, I'll do it the year after that. You're just doing it. Mm-hmm. I think that's one of the hardest things, is that once you are set in your life and you are established, trying to convince yourself that this is something you should do is probably one of the hardest things.
Yeah. I think you come up with more reasons as to why you shouldn't the older you get.
Well, it's not that. It's just things to consider, And I'm trying to speak to the people who might be in that boat themselves, because most motorcyclists are older people, so it's important that we try and identify little stumbling blocks. Where people might think, okay, yes, I wanted to do this, but they come up with excuses for why they can't do it, whereas there is none. The excuse or the thing that's stopping you is you. That's it. You are the person who is stopping yourself from getting involved, and that's entirely your choice. That's entirely up to you. As much as I try to convince as many people as I can, to get involved and how amazing the hobby is, at the end of the day, it's going to come down to you as an individual and where you are at in your life. But if you are paying off your mortgage and financially you are stable, you have no issues with spending a bit of money every now and then there's no excuse really for not getting involved.
Nope.
It's just up to you. But yeah, so just to conclude this, the best times, in my opinion, from my experience, to get involved in riding bikes is going to be between your 16 and 21 years old. And then after that, maybe 40 to 80 years old is probably the right time. I mean, you could make an argument for anyone over 80, but at that point, you just don't know how your health is going to impact your ability to ride.
Your reflexes
and
stuff.
I'm not trying to be mean when I say that. It's just again trying to be as realistic as possible. Optimistically, if you are in perfectly good health and you're 80 years old or 85, then yeah, go for it. Why not? If you've never done it before and you've always wanted to, do it. Go for it. Honestly, you will only find good things when you come to riding bikes. A lot of you might try it and just think, nah, you know what, it's not worth it. And that's fine as well. Mm-hmm. There's nothing wrong with that. The only thing I'm trying to encourage you to do is just to try it, just to get involved. And if 20% of you, 25%, 50% of you decide that it's not for you, that's all good. That's all good. At least you gave it a try. But I hope that this is, I don't know, like how would you describe this? Kind of put things into perspective. What points in your life are a good time to do it? What points in your life probably aren't the best times to do it? When it comes to you and your life, only you can make those decisions. And I mean, as long as you fall into one of those categories where you are financially secure, or maybe you don't have many financial responsibilities, then that's probably a good time. Whatever age you are, really, it's probably a good time. But it's not worth, because you one last thing here, you do get people who they put everything they have into pursuing a hobby like riding bikes, and it will financially ruin them. You know, that is not the way to do it. All right, don't it's not worth it. Don't put yourself in that financial situation where you can't pay off a motorcycle, or you can't afford the tax, or you can't afford maintenance and things like that, because that will just come back round to bite you later on anyway. So it is worthwhile doing this when you are financially secure, and when you know that you've got everything, kind of all the pieces in place or things set in motion, and you don't have to worry so much about that kind of stuff. But yeah, hopefully today's video has given you some insights into that kind of stuff, because it is a burden, as we've said, but it's one of those things that anyone can afford to do if you're at the right stage in your life, pretty much.
Yeah.
But thank you ever so much for joining us on our podcast today. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. If you have, please go ahead, leave that like, hit that subscribe button down there and that notification bell so you don't miss any more from us. But thanks again, everyone. You guys, you take care, you ride safe. We'll catch you all in the next video. Have a good one. Have a good weekend.